What's happening, everyone? Steve here, Cars with Steve, and today we're doing another head-to-head comparison. This time we're taking a look at the 2021 Lincoln Aviator and comparing that to the 2021 Ford Explorer ST. Now, the reason why you want to watch this video is because you're asking yourself, should I go for the Ford? Should I go for the Lincoln? What's really the difference between the two of them? Now, before we get started, as always, want to thank you guys so much for all the support you've given to the channel. If you're enjoying the content, make sure that you give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing with the bell notifications on, and one of the big reasons why you want to do that is because I like to hide Amazon gift card codes in some of my videos, which means there's probably one hidden somewhere in this video. And there's also one that hasn't been claimed yet in a video. Check the link down below in order to be able to see that. But guys, let's dive right into it and see what the difference is between the Explorer and the Aviator. When it comes down to power, the Explorer ST only has one available engine choice, and that's going to be the 3-liter twin turbo that we're looking at underneath the hood. But I absolutely love the look of this thing. From a power perspective, it's going to be able to push out 400 horsepower and 415 foot-pounds of torque. Now, when we compare that to the Aviator technically has two available engine options. Now, the one that we're looking at here, very similar to what we just saw in the Ford, is the 3-liter twin turbo. So very similar to what we just saw, it's 400 horsepower and 415 foot-pounds of torque. However, the Aviator also has a second engine choice, and that's going to be the 3-liter twin turbo, but it also has a hybrid drivetrain to it. When you get into the hybrid, it's got 494 horsepower and 630 foot-pounds of torque. So huge difference. You're obviously paying a couple dollars more in order to get into that hybrid. You're at about 10 grand difference between the hybrid Aviator and just the regular gas engine. And when it comes down to basic technology inside of these vehicles, a few things are going to be the same. So we've got our backup camera as well as our reverse sensing system. When it comes down to the Lincoln Aviator, same thing. So we've got our backup camera as well as the reverse sensing system. Now, one other thing, the vehicles are both equipped with a blind spot system, so we've got the ability to see if anybody's entered the blind spot on either side of the vehicle. On top of that, both vehicles also have the option for that forward sensing system, which means that we've got a 360 camera, which gives you a fuller view of the vehicle. So really nice features that these things have from a basic technology. And along the side, as always, we do have the ability to remote access the door without our key fob. That's going to be the same for the Lincoln as well as for the Ford. When it comes down to towing on the Ford side of things, the Explorer ST is going to give you the ability to tow up to 5,600 pounds. Now, that's in stark comparison to the Lincoln Aviator. When properly equipped, this thing can actually tow up to 6,700 pounds. So if you're going to need to tow a little bit more, the Lincoln may be worth it in comparison to the Explorer ST. Both vehicles are equipped with a foot-activated liftgate, so all we need to do is just pass our foot underneath and step back. As you can see there, foot activated, and along the other side there. So on the Lincoln side, same thing. We're just going to kick off either side and take a little bit of a step back. And as you can see there, we've got a foot activated liftgate for both the Lincoln and the Ford. Right, now, looking at the back of both of these vehicles, so a couple things to point out. Both of them do have power back seats for that third row. Outside of that, in the Ford, we've got our cigarette lighter adapter and then space for our cargo hooks. Now, when we compare that to the Lincoln side of things, so very similar to what we just saw. So as you can see there, we've got power folding rear seats, slightly different setup in order to get these cargo hooks down. And then we've also got the 12-volt adapter, a few other things, and a few extra speakers along the back. Now, from a spacing perspective, these things are built on the same frame, so they are actually the exact same size. But looking there, we've got a little bit of space in the back. And pause for a second, cargo dimensions are going to come up for the Ford. So as you can see, there's plenty of space there when we compare that to the Lincoln. So just the cargo space by itself, as you can see, very similar. Now, as we jump back to the Ford for a second there, looking underneath, as you can see, we've got a little bit of storage space. Moving that back cover, and then underneath, well, let's actually get these guys out of the way. Pop those off, and lifting this bad boy up, as you can see, we do have our mini spare tire, and we've got a little bit of storage space along both sides. Now, when we compare that to the Ford side of the Lincoln side of things, very similar. So this is the cargo protector tray that we would see inside of the vehicle. And popping this up, as you can see, we've got a little tray underneath. And underneath that tray, we also would have the mini spare tire. And very similar to what we just saw in the Explorer, we've also got a little bit of storage space along both sides. Folding the seats down in these things, very straightforward. So as you can see on both of them, we can fold them down individually left or right side, or we can just fold them both down at the same time. So just pressing that power button, as you can see there, is going to fold them down, power, nice and beautiful. Give it a second there, and the cargo dimensions are going to show up on the forward side of things. Perfect, and let's take a quick peek at the Aviator. So same idea, just along the side, we can press individual so that they fold down individually, or we can fold them both down together. You can see there, power, adjustable, love the fact that it's got that, and the seats down, and look at the cargo dimensions there. So very similar from one to the other. Now, when it comes down to spacing on both of these things, so there is a little bit of space. So if you've got people that are a little bit taller, they can get into the back. I do have about 2.5 inches of headspace above me, not a ton of room for my knees or my feet. So you want to make sure that the shorter passengers are in that third row. But having said that, the second row, you can fully move these seats forward as well. So if you need to create a little bit more space, you've got the capabilities to do that. In the third row, technology-wise, there's not really a lot back here. There's actually nothing back here. No vent control, no fan controls, anything like that, but we do have some cup holders. So we've got cup holders along both sides on the driver passenger side. Now, as we move into the second row, both vehicles also have the option for either a 6 or a 7 seat configuration, and it's all going to be based off of what you do with this middle row. Now, on the forward side of things, we've either got this mini console, or there's the option for a bench seat. So there would be another seat there, which would give us 7 seats instead. So it's actually not too shabby. It's a nice look to it. It's a nice feel to it with these leather seats, super comfortable. Now, technology-wise, very similar to what we saw in the third row. There's not a ton of stuff along the side, but as you can see there, we've got our nice cool blue just along the side there. We've also got the ability to control our windows and a little cup holder along the side. And we've also got a little bit of storage space underneath, as well as our pockets. Now, as we look into what we can control, so we've got our basic fan control, as well as the ability to turn on our climate, have it go towards our face or our feet. We can control the temperature in the back. And we've also got our USB ports, so our USB and USB-C, as well as our traditional wall outlet. From there, we've got a little bit of storage space. So this thing actually does have quite a little bit of space to it, and there are some nice features to it. Now, one of the things to point out is that we also do have, I forgot to mention that, we do have our heated seats. So that's going to be standard on the Lincoln and the forward side of things when you look at the ST model or the Lincoln Aviator. Now, on the Lincoln side of things, the third row, as I mentioned, there's not a ton of space back here. So as I mentioned, you can move these second row seats forward a little bit if you need to. But if you've got it set up for somebody who's 6 feet tall, look at this. I've got next to no space, very similar to what I just saw in the Ford there as well. So you will need to have your taller passengers, I should say, either in that second row or the first row. But having said that, it is still nice and comfortable back here. So if these seats were pushed forward a little bit more for that second row, I would have more knee room, but very similar to what we just finished seeing inside of the Explorer. Not a lot of things in the back. So we've got our cup holders, and that's about it. Now, there are some added niceties and luxuries inside of the Aviator. Now, as I mentioned, when it comes down to it, both vehicles can be set up for either a 6 or a 7 seat configuration. But the Lincoln has 3 different options for this middle row instead. There's the option for the dual captain's chairs, for a bench seat, or the dual captain's chairs with, look at this, a little console in the middle. So one of the benefits of having this console is that you've got a little bit of extra storage space, you've got your cup holder set up differently, and you've also got the ability to control the sunshade up overhead. Now, that is obviously stark difference compared to the console that we just finished seeing inside of the Explorer, but having said that, it's really a matter of what do you like the look of? Because if we get it without the console, it's easier to pass through to the back without having to power fold those seats, exactly what we just finished seeing in the Explorer. And if you've got the bench seat, same thing, it still is easy to get into the back of this thing, but it's not quite as easy as if we were to have the dual captain's chairs with no console. So it's really a matter of, do you want the console, do you not? It is a $500 option in order to get that, but it's really a matter of what do you need inside of your vehicle. From a technology perspective, in the back row, as you can see, so with the vehicle turned on, we've got the ability to turn on our seats. We've got our climate control as well as our audio control settings. We can control the vents, and along the very bottom, we've also got our USB and USB-C, as well as our traditional wall outlet. So a lot of similar technology between the two vehicles, but it is outlined and displayed completely differently. You will get more of that nicety, that luxury feel inside of the Lincoln in comparison to the Explorer ST. One other thing to point out, in both vehicles, we do have this sunshade that's available for that third row, so really useful if you've got somebody young in the back, or if you just want to make sure that the person in the back seat's not getting blinded by the sun. We can pop that off easily in order to take it back down. And as we see on the Lincoln side of things, so very similar to what we just saw there, so we can just pop this tab up and over, and then as you can see there, Lincoln side, exact same setup to what we just saw on the Ford, and we can go up and over in order to close that. Now, looking along the driver's side door of the Explorer, so as you can see there, really nice layout, really sleek. I love this faux metallic look there. We do have our seat memory buttons, lock, unlock buttons, power folding the side view mirrors. We've got the ability to kill off the window power to the back. Along the side, we've got the ability to open up our liftgate, fog lamps, and then we've got our settings for our running lamps. The ability to change out the brightness of the screen, and we also do have a power adjustable steering wheel, so power adjustable telescopic steering wheel. So that's going to be very nice as we start to look. So this Explorer ST, it's got the ST technology package, which is why we've got such a large middle screen. Now that's not standard. What you'd normally see would be just the regular Sync 3 screen, but this one with the ST technology package gives us that larger screen instead. So as you can see there, we've got a ton of different options inside of this thing. Basics on assistance, so driver assistance settings. Let's actually navigate through that for a second there, just to see some basics of what we've got. So cruise control, we've got regular, normal, adaptive, and intelligent, different lane keeping modes, blind spot system, trailer blind spot. Now this is one of the reasons why you want to get towing inside of any vehicle, whether it's a Ford, Lincoln, or otherwise. Ford, Lincoln specifically. Now the reason why is because if you get the tow package from the factory, what we just finished seeing on the screen there, so that trailer blind spot, what's going to happen is you enter the dimensions of your trailer inside of the vehicle, and those blind spot indicators on the side view mirrors, it's going to highlight orange not only when somebody's entered the blind spot of your vehicle, but also when somebody's entered the blind spot of the trailer. So really beneficial to get that tow package directly from the factory. But as you can see there, we have quite a few added things. Now there will be a video coming out over the next couple weeks that's going to dive into this. If it's available, check down in the description, or there's going to be a bubble popping up that will point you directly to that more in-depth video. As we start to move down on the screen though, so you can see we've got the ability to kill off that beeping that we get as we start to reverse. If you're not a fan of that, you can turn it off. And then we've got our beautiful 360 camera there. So it's going to work a couple different ways. So we've either got our full 360 view, we've got a front partial view, and then we've got a front 180-degree view. So really useful if you're pulling out of tight spaces, underground parking, etc. And we can just press that camera button in order to get rid of it. And from there, we've got the ability to either change songs or radio stations. We can change the volume, we can turn our audio on or off, we've got the ability to manually tune, we can tune using this, or we can tune on our screen, or we can tune using our voice on the steering wheel. As we start to move down a little bit more, basic climate control settings. So we've got the ability to press this button in order to select whether it's going to the windshield, face, or feet. We can either close or hotkey, turn it on or off. We've got our up, down. So we do have dual zone climate control inside of this thing. And then with the Explorer ST, we also do have heated, but also cooled. So those ventilated front seats. And then there also is a hotkey in order to turn on that heated steering wheel. As we start to move down a little bit, let's pop up this center. And as you can see there, we do have our cigarette lighter adapter, as well as our USB and our USB-C ports. So nothing too crazy underneath there. But one thing to point out that's a little bit notable that I love what Ford's done with the vehicles. Look at this. We've got a little cell phone holder there. There is a wireless charging pad down there. So if your phone supports wireless charging. So really nice. I love that Ford's thought about those basic niceties. As we start to move down, we've got our basic cup holders, park, reverse, neutral, drive, and then our M, so our manual mode, which is going to give us better control over the paddle shifters there. Moving down a little bit more, a couple other things that are notable. So you can see we've got our parking brake and our auto hold setting. The auto hold setting is going to hold you in place if you're stopped. So if you come to a complete stop, take your foot off the brake, your car's not going to move. From there, we've got our auto start stop, so the one that's going to potentially kill power to the engine if we're stopped for an extended period of time. And we've got our park assist. So park assist really useful, very straightforward. It can help out with parallel perpendicular parking and our parallel park out. Press the button to get rid of it. From there, we've also got traction control, so we can turn traction control on or off, and then our hill descent control. So the hill descent control is going to hold the vehicle at a certain speed, while all you have to do is worry and really focus on using the steering wheel. From there, we've got some selectable drive modes, and our basic drive modes are our normal, eco, sport, and then our tow haul along the one side. And as we go the other way, we've got slippery, trail, and then our deep snow and sand mode. So that's going to give you different options and different things that will happen to the vehicle as you switch modes. From there, we've also got our center storage stack there. So we've got a little bit of storage space with another cigarette lighter adapter in the middle. And we can easily close that down from there. Now, looking at the steering wheel and the screen, there are a ton of things for this vehicle. Now, the ST does have adaptive cruise control, so your set it and forget it cruise control. One of the nice things about that set it and forget it cruise is, let's say if you set it for 120 in the highway, car in front of you slows down, yours will automatically brake. From there, we've got the ability to adjust our volume. We can mute. Along the side, we've got our basic menu buttons, and we can navigate through some different available screens. Basic menu settings button as well in order to change out what screens are showing up. So really a matter of preference is what shows up there, and we can press back from there in order to go back to the main screen. We've got the ability to change between songs, hang up on a phone call, answer a phone call, and then our voice command button. Now that voice command button can do a couple different things, whether you're on the Ford or the Lincoln side. It's got the ability to make a phone call. You've got the ability to change things such as the radio station. You can even navigate home in other locations by using that middle button. So really, really friendly settings there. But one of the nice things, I love the Edge ST just because it's got such a different look compared to the regular Explorer. We've got the ST badging there and a beautifully leather wrapped steering wheel. As we move up overhead, we've got the ability to program in our garage door openers if we've got that at home. We've got our sunglasses holder, and we've got a number of different controls along the top. So the ability to turn on each individual cabin light, all of the cabin lights, and whether or not they turn on whenever the door is open. From there, we've also got our twin panel sunroof, so we can pop that open there. It's a really, really nice look. Single button press opens it up halfway, another button press opens it up that remaining half, and we can press this button in order to be able to open up that sunroof there. But beautiful, beautiful look up overhead. Absolutely love it. Really, really nice. And same thing, just one button press in order to be able to close that up from there. Now on the Lincoln side of things, so one thing that's very, very different from the Lincoln to the Ford is how we adjust the seats as well. So the Lincoln has the ability to adjust the seats in very different ways, but this is where we can go to adjust the seats. So a little bit different there, but very similar to what we just saw with the Ford. We've got our seat memory buttons, and we've also got the option there for the massage chair seats, which we also do have in the Explorer ST. As we start to move along the door there, we've got our unlock and our lock buttons, power fold those side view mirrors, and we've also got the ability to kill off power to those back windows just to make sure that people in the back can't control them. As we start to look over to the side, so very similar to what we just saw in the Explorer. We've got the ability to open up our trunk, we've got our fog lamps, we've got the ability to select what's happening with our daytime running lamps, we've got the ability to either increase or decrease the brightness on the screen, and very similar to what we saw in the Explorer, we also do have our power adjustable telescopic steering wheel. Now, as we start to move down a little bit, so let's actually take a look at that screen. So this is the Sync 3 screen as well. Unfortunately, we're not on Sync 4 on the Ford or the Lincoln side as of yet for these specific vehicles. Hopefully in the next year or two, we'll get there. But as we see there, so very similar to what we just saw from a setup perspective when it comes down to basic features. So we've got our audio, phone, navigation. Both vehicles do have factory navigation, and both vehicles also have the option to run off of either Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. So a couple things to point out, very similar from a settings perspective, what we saw with driver assistance. So very straightforward, we've got our adaptive, normal, and our intelligent cruise control, basic lane keeping, pre-collision assist. So we do have a lot of similar features between both vehicles. Reverse brake assist is also available in both. So really, really nice settings there. Moving down the screen there, as you can see, so very similar to what we just finished seeing inside of the Explorer, we've got our park assist button. So our active park assist that can help it with parallel perpendicular and our parallel park out. And very similar, we can just push that button in order to make it go away. And one more time there. And we've also got that 360 camera. So big, beautiful view there. Pressing the button along the top, we've got our either full 360 view, a front partial view, or that front 180-degree view. And then very similar, just press that button in order for it to go away. And then we've also got a hotkey for some basic driver assistance settings. So we've got our auto hold, our auto start stop, as well as our traction control. As we start to move down, so a couple things, we've got our piano keys, which will help us go between park, reverse, neutral, and drive. And one thing is that we don't have our manual mode inside of this Lincoln. However, we do have our paddle shifters. So the paddle shifters there do give you the ability to select what gear you're in, so very straightforward. As we start to move down, we've got our volume rocker, the ability to turn on or off the audio. We can either tune there, we can tune on our screen by pressing audio, or very similar to what we just saw, we've got the ability to press our voice command button in order to be able to tune using that instead. As we start to move down, we've got the ability to lock out whether or not people in the back seat can control the rear controls. We can change between sources. We've got our 4-way blinkers, change between songs, and moving down. Very, very different setup. But that's one of the nicer things about the Lincoln is that it is more luxury. It's a more luxurious feel, very different look in comparison to what we just saw in the Explorer. We've got some of that spun aluminum there, but I love the look of this thing. Now, this is the ebony interior. There are more interior choices that are available in the Lincoln in comparison to that Ford ST. Now, as we start to move back down the console there, so a couple things to point out. We do have the ability to control the fan, I should say. So whether it's going to our windshield, to our face, or to our feet, we can turn it off. We do have dual zone climate control in this vehicle also. And from there, we've got a hotkey for our heated steering wheel, very similar to what we just finished seeing in the Explorer. We've got our heated and cooled, so our ventilated front seats. As we start to move down, so a little similar to what we just finished seeing in the Explorer, we've got a place to hold our cell phone there, and we can also toss it in there. So there is the option for that wireless charging pad. We've also got our USB and our USB-C, as well as our basic cup holders. As we start to move down, we've got our parking brake, so electronic parking brake, and the ability to switch between different drive modes. So our basic drive modes, very similar to what we just saw, so our normal, conserve, and our excite mode. Along the other way, we've got our slippery and then our deep conditions. Now, when it comes down to the steering wheel, so a lot of differences from what we just saw from the Ford side of things. So as I mentioned, it is a more luxurious feel to it. It feels different. Now, one of the other things to point out is that this vehicle does have essentially it's a different type of display when it comes down to the buttons. So as you can see there, we've got cruise control, but watch what happens when we press that cruise button. So it lets us know what we can currently use. So that's one of the nice things about this vehicle is that there are hotkeys that let us know what we can and can't use, and it updates literally on the fly as we go. So as we start to navigate through some other settings, look what happens there. We've got the option to select different menu options there, different menu settings. So it's really, really neat what shows up as we jump through these different modes. So a couple things, as I mentioned, so this one does have the adaptive cruise control as well. So very similar to what we just saw in the Ford, it is a set it and forget it cruise control. Let's say if you set it at 120 kilometers an hour, car in front of you slows down, yours will automatically brake. So as I mentioned, just a very different layout. So we've got the ability to skip between radio stations or songs, increase or decrease the volume. Although on the other side, we've got some basic screens for our audio, for our phone settings, navigation, and then some basic settings as well. So we've got the ability to change the basic display setup. From there, as I mentioned, we do have our minus and our plus buttons in order to change the gears. Very similar to what we saw in the Explorer, we've got the ability to turn on or off our lane keeping system. And we've got some basic controls for the windshield wiper, so for our front wiper and our rear wiper from there. The screen itself is very, very different in comparison. So we've got a fully digital screen there. We can tweak that screen out so that different things show. Link down in the description in order to get the full review video for this vehicle. Now, as we start to look up overhead, very similar to what we saw in the Explorer. So we've got the ability to program in our garage door codes. From there, we can turn on the cabin lights individually. And then we've also got that same twin panel sunroof. So beautiful look up overhead. And from there, same thing, one button press in order to open up that sunroof again. But very, very beautiful. Look at that. Look at that. Well, folks, that was a look at the difference between the Explorer and the Lincoln Aviator. Which one do you think you would go for? Whether you look at the Explorer ST or the Aviator, firstly is what's your budget going to be and what kind of styling that you like? If you're a bigger fan of more of that luxurious style, I think you'd be pleasantly surprised with the Explorer, but you're just gonna have more options in the Aviator instead. If you have any questions, make sure you drop it down in the comments section below. But until I see you next time, make sure you stay safe.